This was his close friend who was signed to his label. If you can't see how calculated, manipulative, and ruthless he was, you're not listening. Is P. Diddy really a psychopath? I'm going to give you a unique perspective on this because it's very likely that we share the same disorder. We may have the same thoughts, but I'm just less likely to commit those crimes. 19 was a crazy time for Sean Combs, or as we know him now, P. Diddy. He was a student at Howard University when he first came into contact with Andre Harrell. Andre worked for Uptown Records, something that he was a partial owner of. There was another figure that was very important at this time, and that was Clive Davis. Nobody understood how P. Diddy came to climb these ranks and how he became vice president at such a young age when he had nothing unique to offer the music industry. Even his mother advised him not to go ahead with this and to continue with his university. So he traveled approximately 4 hours each way to get to work, to be able to do his classwork and work at the label. You may be wondering, what is so important and imperative of this 19-year-old that these people can't get from anywhere else? The truth is, he was being assaulted, most likely by Clive Davis as well as Andre Harrell. Uptown Records was owned by Andre Harrell, but backed by Clive Davis. Anyone who's seen Clive Davis and understands sociopathy and psychopathy could quite clearly make the distinction that his eyes have no life to them whatsoever. They look positively reptilian. Though he was the first openly gay music producer, he also had a tendency to be incredibly creepy and predatory towards young males, especially attractive young males like Sean Diddy Combs. An interesting turn was when Diddy got fired by Uptown Records. You may think that this was a time of him being depressed and not being able to live with himself because he lost this cushy job that no other 19-year-old had, but he was given his own label, Bad Boy Records, where he was the CEO, and he was being backed by Clive Davis specifically. So now Andre Harrell is out of the way. When Diddy made a name for himself, he decided that he was no longer going to be graped and groomed. So he decided to do it to other people instead. This can be seen in his interpersonal relationships, and it is very relevant to psychopathy because psychopaths love control. They love manipulation and they love exerting power over everybody around them, no matter what the relation is. Sean was absolutely ruthless when it came to his personal relationships. This included people he worked with creatively, the people he dated, and the people who were unfortunately his friends. At the time, he was known as Puff Daddy because he would huff and puff all over the studio whenever he didn't get his way. He was so controlling that he asked one of his artists to drop their manager, who had been there with them for the start of their career, for their entire troubled periods. And when he wouldn't do that, he decided to drop him from the label and to hold on to the rights to his music so he could exert power over him. Diddy was drunk on power with his own label, and he ended up finding the Notorious B.I.G., who we all know as Biggie. He was a mentor to him, and he was a very close friend. They were very close. And he still had the audacity to invite him to an after party when he had a broken leg. And Biggie refused this multiple times. He was just like, no, I don't want to do this. I meant to go to London. I'm going to go to London. But no, Diddy dragged him there. And then after that, he was fatally shot. Then again, I have to say audacity, because he had the audacity to go on television, and when people asked him, do you feel responsible for this? He gaslit them, triangulated them, and told them, no, I do feel a little bit bad about it because I was telling him to go to London, but he decided to stay in LA, and that's when they were beefing with the whole West Side. He was there to allegedly be killed. And then he couldn't handle that heat, could he, Diddy? So he decided to blame the victim. He likes to do that. He's done that a lot of times, actually. He seemed to have a predilection for certain victims, and that seemed to be African American men. This included Usher, 50 Cent, Biggie, Tupac, Justin Bieber, who potentially he saw as a black person at the time. I don't know. Psychopaths have this tendency to put themselves above everybody else, and he went to special lengths to do this. Puffy was involved in a shooting in a club, and he was there with one of the artists signed to his label named Shine. As a close friend to Shine, you would think that Diddy would do something to protect him. Instead, when there were charges put against him and Shine, he hired himself the best lawyer money can buy, the best lawyer that OJ could buy, Johnny Cochran. But what did he do for his friend? Nothing. He got a public defender. And he also sent the most damning witness to testify against Shine. This was his close friend who was signed to his label. If you can't see how calculated, manipulative, and ruthless he was, you're not listening. If you think that Diddy stopped with just men, you're wrong. He's dated some of the most attractive women known to mankind, including Cassie. Cassie, if you're watching, I love you and I wouldn't do this to you. Every woman who had the misfortune of being part of Diddy's romantic life ended up dead, stalked, harassed, and trafficked, and finally that he was just too interested in men for their relationship to continue. Recently, his homes got raided because it's alleged that he did sex traffic numerous women. So did his son, allegedly. But there was a lot of criminal versatility in Diddy's career. Not only was he overly aggressive and violent, getting into punch-ups with literally like anyone he could find, and then beating up Wale because he did a record with Cassie and he couldn't deal with anybody else touching Cassie, so he allegedly grabbed him by the legs and hung him out the window. He is a very audacious character, this one, and let me just say, the DSM couldn't just define him because he seems to be the personification of everything that is bad about antisocial personality disorder. I'm not a therapist, so don't quote me on this because I can't diagnose anybody. But come on, you have to see how compelling this shit is. It just adds up. As someone who does think this way but doesn't have the horrible personality needed to carry these out, I would say this guy would definitely classify as what we think he is, a psychopath. So I want to know your thoughts. Do you agree with me or are we going to beef about this? Stay tuned though, I will keep you updated as the case moves forward.